Hey everyone, and welcome to this brand new special episode of, I don't know, this is just a special video we're doing about Ant-Man, a set visit report that Kristian got to go on. You went back in October, right?
I've been waiting to talk about this forever. Yeah, it was October. It was the end of October. John had asked me if I wanted to go to represent AMC, and I was like, no. I mean, I was super excited to go because of, to be honest, my initial kind of hesitations with Ant-Man because it's a lesser-known property and because of the fallout with Edgar Wright and, or the departure of Edgar Wright, I should say. And I don't know, and I wasn't sure kind of what to expect going in.
Mm-hmm. And then you went to Atlanta for that one, right?
Yeah.
And then you most recently went to another kind of set visit, but that was up in the Bay Area.
Yeah, they showed, the first visit was at the new Pinewood in Atlanta, which is beautiful, by the way. Really set up nice. It was the first thing that they were shooting there of many things. I think they're shooting Civil War there now. But they're shooting a bunch of things there. This was the first one. And then, yes, this past weekend I went to, they flew us up to ILM, and we got to, as a Star Wars fan in general, I was excited to go, but it was to show us some scenes, it was to show us some footage, and to show really kind of where it had progressed from what we had seen, because we'd seen a couple of scenes shot, and then kind of where that has gone and how this story is shaping up and fitting into the MCU.
Okay, and then tell us about your overall kind of experience, especially visiting the set in Atlanta. Who did you get to talk to?
Everyone. Okay. And I mean, like, everyone involved in this movie, they were so open, they were so great, and I think it was because they wanted, what I think Marvel's been so good at was understanding when they had a property that was lesser known, but also using the support and success they've had from the fans and the press to really say, look, this is the new one that we're proud of and that we're putting out there, and they did that. Like, we got to talk to Kevin Feige, we got to talk to Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, which was a highlight of my career, Paul Rudd, Peyton Reed, it was just, it went on and on. Like, you name them, we got to talk to them.
Okay, and what was kind of the overall sense you got that they were trying to convey about the movie? I know there was some stuff about, people are worried about if it's a comedy or not, but really it's not, right?
There are certainly comedic elements to it, but what I was worried about, which I'm sure a lot of people were, is when they announced that Peyton Reed, who his background is in comedy, that this was just going to be Marvel's new genre, but it's just going to be kind of slapstick, especially you add Paul Rudd in there, and it's just kind of a goofy comedy. And it's not. There are certain comedic elements, and what Marvel, I think, separate from like what DC does, is that Marvel has those jokes. We've certainly seen it in the Avengers. We've seen Joss Whedon did that. I mean, even in something a little bit more serious like The Winter Soldier, there were certainly some jokes in there as well. But this one you're going to have, with the presence of Paul Rudd, you want to benefit on that. And I think he co-wrote with Adam McKay this script as well too, after they took over for Edgar Wright. So they made it clear, though, that this is not a comedy. This is a heist film. Okay. They made it many times, and what we've seen so far in those trailers and what we were able to see on set, this is a heist film like they did with Captain America's, was a spy thriller, and Guardians was the space opera. This genre is a spy thriller.
Okay.
And excuse me, it's a heist film.
And then Peyton Reed, I guess he was a big fan of Ant-Man even before being hired.
Yes, and when you hear someone say that, you go, oh, what else are you going to say? But then he just started going off, well, in issue, this, blah, blah, blah. This guy is a Marvel fanboy. He is an Ant-Man fanboy. It seems like he very excited and understood, though, when he came in, that he was acquiring a project that's already started to get worked on. So he knew that going in there, that he'd have to kind of win some people over, and he'd have to show, and he did that with his knowledge. And I went in there, like I said, skeptical. Like, Peyton Reed, this is the guy that we're going with for this movie. And then hearing him talk, I'm so confident in what this guy has shown. And like I'm always a guy that if I see a filmmaker or the stars like genuinely excited about the project that they're doing, it speaks volumes to me, and it did with him, with his knowledge, because apparently what Kevin Feige said while talking to us is that Peyton Reed was one of the guys that was going to get Guardians. It was between him and Gunn, and you could see why. Like, they trust this guy, they trust what he's doing, they trust him with this new technology, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second here, as far as how they're going to make Ant-Man be Ant-Man. Because when you hear Ant-Man alone, if you don't know, most people go, well, that sounds silly. And when you're using the humor that you asked about, that's when you can put it into play, when he's just like, we're still thinking about the name, or whatever the line is. But they're aware of that it could be silly hearing Ant-Man, but they also play into it really well, and Peyton Reed should be credited for that.
And then what about Paul Rudd? What is his overall thoughts of being cast? Because he was brought in by Edgar Wright and not by Peyton Reed. Then Peyton Reed took over. What's his thoughts on the character himself, like Scott Lang and Ant-Man in general?
Yeah, what Scott Lang is going to be is this guy who has just made bad decisions in his lifetime. You know, he's getting out of prison and he comes back and he's trying to do it right and trying to create a life with his daughter and he gets caught up in the world again, but this time by fate or whatnot, he kind of gets thrown towards Hank Pym's direction. But what Scott is trying to do is go legit, but he's a criminal. He's not a bad dude, but he's a guy that's made some bad decisions. But he falls into maybe this life as Ant-Man, working with a guy like Hank Pym, who's a complicated character. But Rudd's overall thoughts is he looked like a kid in a candy store, man. Like, he was so excited to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that the coolest thing that I think that one of the things that I'll ever be able to do is he came in and he spoke to all of us. And he was answering all the questions about how he was aware again, because I think I actually asked him about working in comedy, and basically the question you just asked me, was this going to be a comedy? He's like, no, we were aware of it. Like, I've worked with those guys before, and being in comedy, we were also aware this is a Marvel film also, so we tried to blend it, but this is a Marvel film, make no mistakes about it. But one of the coolest things ever, he went to shoot a scene that we got to see, and he comes back in wearing the full Ant-Man outfit, and he had the whole thing. He showed us the trinkets and everything, the way it looks. It looks old school because it's supposed to be from a time past, like it's a different time when they got the actual suit, and you see it. You see how much detail went into it. But he was in the helmet and he was walking around. He would have stayed in that thing all day talking to us. He loved it. So I got a genuine thing of excitement from him.
So when you talk to Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd, what did they talk about their working relationship on set?
The working relationship on set was, I mean, I think that it's impossible to not use the word legend when you talk about Michael Douglas. So knowing that they got a guy like that, I think Paul Rudd right away was very excited to work with him. But it was the relationship that they both explained that is between Scott and Hank that is very interesting, because Hank is a guy that not a huge fan of superheroes, not a huge fan of what's going on in S.H.I.E.L.D., and had a bit of a falling out, and goes on a journey to take this technology that he has developed so well, the Pym technology, and even his own company, he's not running anymore, but he's kind of on the outskirts looking in. So when it comes to a time that he needs somebody, he goes out and finds Scott. So by doing that, there's almost like a father-son relationship, and that's what overall the theme. That's what a lot of people asked, and that's what Peyton, Kevin, all these guys talked about, was the father, son, daughter relationships themes overall, that with a good son, a bad son, a daughter. It's everything that's in there, because even the relationship between Corey Stoll and did I say that? Corey Stoll and Michael Douglas. There's kind of a father-son relationship there. He's kind of running the company, so it's very detailed. I walked away, and I think I've now, when you guys hear how many times when I've said, listen, I think this is why I've been kind of optimistic on it, because I was like the majority of people, like, what's Ant-Man going to be all about? The one thing I will say is there's a particular scene that we saw that they showed when we went to ILM that I didn't know if the tone fit, and this is more of what you said with the comedy. I was like, I don't know if they necessarily needed that, but I want to see how it plays, because the technology, when he shrinks down to Ant-Man, wow. This is going to be like, good luck to the Russo brothers and other people to have to duplicate this, because I asked them about that. That's going to carry on. Whatever you see Ant-Man do in this movie, he's got to do in further movies, because he's going to be in Civil War. He's going to be in all these other movies. And it just looks really cool. It doesn't look cheesy. It doesn't look like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You see how this is going to play, and how this guy's able to use this and master this costume.
And then you talked about the relationship between Hank Pym and Darren Cross, which is being played by Corey Stoll.
Right.
He's going to be a Yellow Jacket. Also, you talked about Evangeline Lilly and how that factors in. I was reading about, I guess, Darren Cross and Hope kind of like almost commandeer the company.
From what we saw, the scene that we saw, there was that she's a big partner. There seems to be some bad blood between her and Hank. They don't really they don't really look at each other. I mean, so he maybe Hank wants more relationship, but she's kind of stink eyes him, across the. But she's working for Corey Stoll for as far as where I have seen so far. I don't know how that transpires and where it goes, but it all links in. I think it goes back to what I just said with the father, son, daughter relationship. There's something there, and it looks like it's going to be pretty rich.
Okay, and then on your recent visit to ILM, what kind of cool technological advances have you seen in the featuring in something like Ant-Man?
It's the way that they shot the shrinking scenes. Like they took they shot like inside of the photorealism, but the way that the macro, I forget the name.
Like macro photography or whatever.
It's you see everything that you see when he's down at that level is actual real stuff, and they're just placing him in there as Ant-Man, and the way, and you can tell like it's different. Like when you use an effect that changes the game, and you're gonna it's going to blow people away, and you're going to be excited to see him change. And it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a gimmick for like whatever movie he's in. This is setting the standard now of going, oh, I can't wait to see Ant-Man turn into Ant-Man, because how are they going to use this? And eventually, maybe, who knows, maybe he shrinks down Tony Stark and Tony's got to go down with him down there in a future movie. But whatever it is, it's the way that they have mastered this thing, and from the scenes that they showed, and it's ILM. I mean, look what they just did with Jurassic World. It's like they've done so much in their careers that this is another one that they're going to be a notch in their belt for sure. And the other thing that they showed at ILM was more scenes than just effect stuff, but it showed the relationship with Michael Pena and Paul Rudd. And I will say, because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, there's a device that they use that is comedic, but it also tells the story that I think a lot of people will be talking about, and it's pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, any last things that you want to let the audience or the viewers know about from your set visit?
Yeah, to go in with an open mind and realize that this is what Marvel has done so far with their properties. They have changed genres each time. They've made things different, and it looks to be the case here. This does further the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it does have ties into the Avengers. Absolutely. Kevin Feige has said it. It does, and it plays on. This is the last movie in Phase 3.
Okay.
So I would say go into this and have some pretty good expectations. I say though, because you're going to see some cool stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank Kristian for coming on here and telling us about all this stuff. It's funny because I've been doing a lot of these interviews with people who get on set. Ashley went to Inside Out. Schnepp went to Avengers: Age of Ultron. I sit here in LA just in front of computers, and then you guys come back here and tell them I got to ask you these questions. But anyways, thanks to Kristian. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Kristian Harloff, either Twitter and Instagram, and check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/schmoesknow, and do me a favor and subscribe.
And you can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, or on Instagram, Dennis.tzng, or on YouTube, ThinkHero Pro. And make sure to subscribe to the AMC Theaters YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/AMC Theaters. And don't forget to check out Ant-Man. Go to www.amctheaters.com, where you can get all your tickets and showtime and all that information. Thanks.